what's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be watching a video titled Why Pennsylvania Holds America Together. Without further ado, let's see what this video is about.
There's an architectural term for the wedge-shaped stone at the top of an arch, the one that holds every other stone in place. Remove it and the whole structure falls. Pennsylvania has been called the Keystone State since 1802. Most people treat that as a history lesson.
I don't think I've watched any videos of Pennsylvania before this, so...
Actually, still a geographic fact.
Or I might have, but not many.
Pennsylvania is the 5th largest economy in the United States. It produces almost a fifth of the country's natural gas. A single stretch of highway in its eastern interior puts a truck within 1 day of 40% of the American population. Philadelphia is one of the oldest and largest financial centers on the continent. Pittsburgh rebuilt itself from industrial collapse into one of the leading robotics and AI research hubs in the world. This state has been the keystone of the American economy for 250 years. The geography is why, and it hasn't changed. Pennsylvania earned its nickname in 1802.
I like his voice and the way he's telling this. It's very intriguing.
In the political imagination of the early republic, it was the state holding the country together, geographically centered among the original colonies, home to both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. That political meaning is the surface.
Wait, I must have watched more videos of Pennsylvania. Maybe I just don't remember or something. I don't know. But this sounds significant.
Reading. The geographic meaning is older and more durable. Pennsylvania sits at the exact point where the Atlantic coastal plain runs out and the Appalachian Mountains begin. Every trade route moving between the eastern seaboard and the American interior had to reckon with Pennsylvania first. The few gaps through the mountains were precious. Pennsylvania held most of them. The mountain system cutting through the state isn't especially high. Most peaks barely crossed 3,000 feet, but height wasn't the problem. Movement was. The ridges run diagonally from northeast to southwest, creating a chain of barriers that made east-west movement painfully slow for most of American history. Wagons struggled to cross.
I don't know, I think I saw this as well. Somewhere the train that goes like next to the lake on the highway, oh my god, is so beautiful. Oh, I would love to have a house on this mountain and look at the train go by.
Slow for most of American history. Wagons struggled to cross them. Canals had to route around them at enormous cost. Railroads had to carve through at tremendous expense. The mountains didn't stop movement entirely. They slowed it, directed it, and forced every industry crossing Pennsylvania to pay a price. That's the geographic fact underneath the nickname. The Keystone doesn't just sit at the center of the arch. It sits at the point where all the pressure converges, and Pennsylvania absorbed pressure from both sides for 250 years. The east faced the Atlantic. What it built there had a 200-year head start. Philadelphia was the largest city in colonial America. Bigger than New York, bigger than Boston. The reason was geography. The Delaware River gave Philadelphia direct deep-water access to the Atlantic. Its position on the coast put it within reach of the Caribbean trade routes that powered much of the colonial economy. When merchant ships from Europe arrived looking for a natural port connected to the interior, Philadelphia was the answer. That head start built on itself. Finance, shipping, publishing, manufacturing. Each generation inherited.
Pennsylvania is also such a weird shape because it kind of goes up like on the lake to touch the lakeside. I wonder how the shape came to be. Was it because of the lake? They were like, nah, we want a piece of that lake, and that's why it's like that, or for what?
The infrastructure the previous one had already concentrated there. By the time the Revolution ended, Philadelphia had an economic lead that New York would spend the next century overtaking. Most people think of Philadelphia as a city that peaked in the 18th century. The Atlantic machine it sits on never stopped. Today, cargo still moves up the Delaware River into one of the largest port systems on the East Coast. Refrigerated ships carrying fruit, meat, and pharmaceuticals dock at terminals built into the same geographic corridor that made Philadelphia important before the United States even existed. The industries changed, the structural position didn't. The Philadelphia metro area is still one of the largest economic centers in the country. Comcast is headquartered there.
It looks so pretty.
University of Pennsylvania health system is one of the largest employers in the state. Philadelphia's financial sector manages hundreds of billions in assets, a direct inheritance from the city that once housed the first bank of the United States. Philadelphia's modern economy looks nothing like its colonial one, but the logic underneath it is almost identical. It still sits at the natural gateway between the Atlantic world and the American interior. And a city in that position doesn't have to specialize in one industry. Every generation hands it a new one. The mountains that limited Philadelphia's expansion westward created a completely different economic world on the other side of the state. That world didn't run on trade, it ran on fire. Pittsburgh sits at the confluence of the Allegheny and the Monongahela rivers, where they join to form the Ohio. That confluence is not just geography trivia. Before railroads and interstate highways, it was one of the great gateways into the American interior. Everything moving west of the Appalachians flowed through river systems connected to this point. The mountains that stopped Philadelphia became Pittsburgh's foundation. Coal seams ran thick through the hills surrounding the city. Iron ore could move south from the Great Lakes along established water routes. And the
What on earth
iron
is
ore
that? Look at that boat. It looks like it's either pushing or pulling, like... Is that a boat? Yeah. It looks kind of like train carriages, but like that go underwater and are filled with sand, like little sand, but I don't know what that is. I don't think that can be it. Interesting. Never ever have I seen that. It looks like they're like underwater. Like not underwater, but you know, like I don't know how to explain it.
Could move south from the Great Lakes along established water routes. And the rivers flowing out of Pittsburgh pointed directly into the industrializing Midwest and the expanding frontier beyond it. Pittsburgh had everything steel required, and the waterways to move it cheaply. By the early 20th century,
What is that?
And
Look at that. So they... I don't get it.
the waterways to move it cheaply. By the early 20th century, the city had become the industrial center of the United States. At its peak, Pittsburgh produced roughly a quarter of the world's steel. The smoke from its mills blackened the sky. Blast furnaces ran day and night along the rivers. The skyline of industrial America was, in large part, forged here. U.S. Steel was founded in Pittsburgh in 1901, the first billion-dollar corporation in American history. The Carnegie, Frick, and Mellon fortunes were built here. So was much of the industrial infrastructure of the modern United States. Then, the industry collapsed. In the 1970s and 80s, Pittsburgh lost more than half its population. Steel mills closed across the region.
Whoa, that looks so cool. This looks very, very pretty. But I don't know, why haven't I heard of this more before? I feel like Pennsylvania is not getting the credit it needs.
River towns hollowed out. Entire generations left in search of work elsewhere. But the industrial economy left something behind. The steel mills disappeared, but the institutions the steel wealth funded remained. Carnegie Mellon, the University of Pittsburgh, research hospitals, engineering programs. Laboratories built with industrial money that outlasted the industrial era itself. Pittsburgh's modern economy now runs on robotics, medicine, software, and AI research. Carnegie Mellon became one of the most influential computer science institutions in the world. UPMC grew into one of the largest health systems in the country. None of that replaced the old. Grew into one of the largest health systems.
Children's Hospital. It's a hospital. Oh, okay, this is Children's Hospital. Yeah, okay, I get the colors. Because I was saying if this was a hospital that I went to, I don't know if I would feel safe. I just don't trust this lime green color, you know? I feel like hospitals need to look like hospitals.
In the country. None of that replaced the old geography. It emerged from it. The same rivers and mountains that built the steel economy had, over generations, concentrated the wealth and institutions that allowed Pittsburgh to survive after steel collapsed. But the mountains between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia didn't just separate two economies. They created a third one, sitting on something
Oh my God, look at that. That's beautiful.
Neither city expected. The Appalachian ridges that separated Philadelphia from Pittsburgh also isolated the vast stretch of Pennsylvania between them. For most of American history, central Pennsylvania developed slowly and unevenly.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Fendi. Fendi. Come here. She's sleeping. Oh, she would love a house like that with a yard. Oh my goodness. This is so pretty. How is the grass so freaking green? I don't get it. How do you take care of your grass like that? I don't know. I don't get it. All of these grasses are green. And also you can see the difference between how they take care of their grasses. Like you can see the lines between the house. That's crazy. Like this grass needs a little bit more of something. It's a bit lighter. This grass looks amazing. I don't know what products they use, but damn. That's some good grass. Like really, really good grass. This one could use some work too. This one and this one probably work together with their grasses. They share their tricks, you know? This one, ooh, this one looks dry. They need to get a new gardener. But this is beautiful.
It's populated by small coal towns tucked into narrow valleys and farms separated by ridges that made large-scale integration difficult for generations. The mountains didn't just divide the state geographically. They delayed it economically. Urbanization and outside investment came later here. While the eastern and western edges of Pennsylvania connected themselves to global trade and heavy industry, much of the interior remained tied to extraction economies, built around whatever the terrain could provide. Coal first, then natural gas. Beneath central and northern Pennsylvania sits the richest section of the Marcellus Shale, one of the largest natural gas formations in the world. Advances in horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing in the early 2000s suddenly turned large parts of rural Pennsylvania into some of the most productive energy fields in North America. Today, Pennsylvania is the second largest natural gas producer in the United States. Nearly a fifth of all American natural gas comes from shale formations beneath the state. The same mountains that slowed economic integration for 2 centuries had also helped preserve enormous energy reserves underneath them. If Pennsylvania's gas industry were its own country, it would rank among the major energy producers on Earth. The political geography followed the physical geography. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh grew into large urban economies connected to finance, education, healthcare, and trade. The interior developed around resource extraction, manufacturing towns, and rural industries that made sense for the terrain. The middle voted differently because it lived differently.
This kind of reminds me of Finland. I mean, the fields and the trees and kind of the weather looks like the same. It's pretty.
Political consultant James Carville once said that Pennsylvania is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with Alabama in between. That works less as a political joke than as a geographic observation. The mountains separated these regions long before elections ever did. But the most economically important development in modern Pennsylvania may not be the gas fields at all. It's a transportation corridor most people drive through without realizing what it has become. Between the Delaware River and Harrisburg, running along Interstate 78 and Interstate 81 through the Lehigh Valley and into the Cumberland Valley beyond, Pennsylvania has become one of the most important logistics corridors in the United States. The geometry is simple. A warehouse in eastern Pennsylvania can reach nearly 40% of the American population within a single day's truck drive. From New York to Pittsburgh, some of the country's largest consumer markets all sit within the same distribution radius. Few places.
Is that from New York?
Consumer markets all sit.
I was looking at some of the flights that go from here to America. The easiest is to get to New York. The fastest is to get to New York. So it might end up being the first place I visit. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't know, because I was hoping to go somewhere like a little bit further away first. But I don't know. Would you guys be disappointed if the first place I visited was New York? I don't know. You tell me. But wow, that looks incredible. This looks like, I don't even know how to, it looks like the future.
The same distribution radius. Few places in the United States offer that combination of reach and cost. Land is cheaper than northern New Jersey. Labor costs less than New York. Interstate corridors connect directly into both the Northeast and the interior Midwest. And the ports of Newark, Elizabeth, and Philadelphia sit close enough to feed the system continuously. Modern logistics networks converged on Pennsylvania because the geography made it efficient to do so. Over the last 2 decades, the Lehigh Valley became one of the fastest growing warehousing regions in America. Millions of square feet of distribution space spread across former industrial land and farmland. Amazon, FedEx, UPS, Walmart, and nearly every major logistics operator built infrastructure here at enormous scale. To most drivers passing through, the corridor just looks like warehouses and truck stops. What they're actually looking at is a critical transfer point in the modern American economy. Containers arriving at East Coast ports are increasingly distributed inland through Pennsylvania before their contents ever reach stores across the eastern half of the country. And the workforce that filled those facilities came from the older industrial geography the state had already built. Former steel towns, coal communities, manufacturing regions with experienced labor sitting exactly where the new logistics economy needed it. The Rust Belt labor force and the logistics economy met at exactly the right coordinates. That pattern had now repeated itself for the 4th time in Pennsylvania's history. First, Atlantic trade, then steel, then energy, now logistics. Different industries with the same geography. A piece of land positioned.
I want to go here. Like, I want to visit. It's so beautiful. But I don't know. Now I'm feeling again like I want to move somewhere. I need to move somewhere. Should I move to Finland, guys? I don't know. Life crisis number 125 is about to come on.
So precisely between major economic systems that every generation finds a new.
Wow, look at that. Oh my goodness. It looks like from a storybook. Like, this makes me want to draw. This inspires me.
Reason to route something critical through it.
So pretty.
Pennsylvania looks like a state pulled in different directions. Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west. The long mountain corridor between them.
Why didn't I notice that Philadelphia and Pittsburgh were so far apart? I thought that, well, obviously now I saw that Philadelphia is there because of the river thing, but at first I thought that they would be like in the middle of the state-ish.
Coal towns, shale fields, farming valleys, warehouse hubs. But the mountains didn't fragment Pennsylvania, they positioned it. Every era of American economic history needed to move through the same narrow geographic corridor. Atlantic merchants needed the Delaware River gateway. Industrial expansion needed the river confluence at Pittsburgh. Energy extraction needed what was buried under the ridges. Transportation logistics needed the one-day reach that only the Lehigh Valley could offer. The industries changed every generation. The geography never did. The Keystone nickname is more than 200 years old. The architecture it describes is still load-bearing. If you want to understand how Ohio plays a similar role at the center of the American interior, that video is linked above. And if this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribing is the best way to make sure you don't miss the next one. The world has a structure. Let's keep finding it. There's an arc.
I like the way he talks. But that was beautiful, that was interesting, and that went very into detail on how Pennsylvania works. So I found that to be quite eye-opening. Thank you guys for joining me for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!